What's going on, everybody? So, now that the weather's getting nicer, I can take my walks and do my uploads again, and I really like to take walks when I upload because it helps me, I guess, focus a little better. As crazy as that may sound, but I don't know. But what I'm going to be talking about today is racism and how I feel about it and some examples to benefit the claims that I'm about to make. So, let me get straight and right to the point. Racism is never going to go away. No matter how much you fight it, no matter what you do, it's never going to go away. And the reason for that is because racism does not have to be hatred. Racism does not have to be oppression. There can be little forms of it, like minor things that it doesn't negatively affect anyone. It could be positive racism, for example. Like, here's an example. Using my life, I'm going to give an example. As we all know, I used to live in the cities. I moved out of the cities and moved out to, basically I'm in the country right now. I mean, look at all this. This is the country out here. But what ended up happening was I had public transit out in the cities. So I never needed to get a vehicle. I never needed to drive. I never even needed to care about learning how to drive. And I never did. I moved away from the cities to out here. And I had to get a driver's license and I had to get a vehicle. I did. I got it done. But one thing that needs to be considered here. I had to take 3 road tests. The first 2 road tests that I took, I had a white examiner. Now, I was pretty confident that I was going to pass both times, and I failed both times. I admit it. It was not due to race that I failed. It was because I made an honest mistake, and they did their jobs. But here's where I'm saying that there was some racial benefit in one of my road tests. The 3rd time I got tested, I had an African American male for my examiner. So I had a black man. And I'm going to say this. Me and him had our first interaction, and we shook hands and everything. I'll say this right now. Before we even got in my truck, I knew I passed. I knew it. And the reason I knew I passed was the only way I'd fail is I'd have to do some really stupid shit because of the fact I had a black examiner. Because here's the thing. It doesn't have to be just blacks. It doesn't have to be just whites that do this. Like, if you have a Hispanic person, for example, and you're Hispanic, and say you're going to get that road test or whatever, and you got a Hispanic examiner. I was trying to think of a different example, but we'll use that. The Hispanic would be much more likely to overlook things than other races because there's that sense of familiarity. Just like if a black person's going to try to get a job and the employer is black, and it doesn't have to be affirmative action, but that black employer is going to have a little bit of favor towards the black employee that's applying for the job. I hope that makes sense. If not, go ahead and ask. I can make another upload to explain that. But I knew I had passed, and the way I even talked with the guy, and the way he talked to me, because I had heard him talk to a white person he had just done a road test for. And I had heard how he was talking to him. He was talking very professional and but with me, it was, me and him talked in a more friendly way than me and the other examiners did. Like, me and him were much more friendly with each other. You know, we didn't talk like fucking hood rat gangbangers or none of that, but, you know, we were very friendly comparative to the others. Now, I was cool with him, I was chill, but me and him was different. Now, there were things that he should have marked me down for. I mean, I should have passed anyway. I didn't do anything that would cause me to fail regardless. But there were things he should have marked me down for. You know, simple dumb shit. But he didn't mark me down for it. And the reason he didn't mark me down for it, I believe part of it was that favoritism. And it was that favor. Now, we're going to use another example here. And they're going to go away from using the examiner as an example here. When you go into a restaurant that is predominantly black, and I'm not going to say any names of restaurants or nothing because I don't want to get called a racist. I've been called that enough already, right? But when you go into a restaurant and it's predominantly black, what's going to happen is this. You're going to have a different attitude than if you go into a predominantly white restaurant. When you go into a predominantly black restaurant, you're going to expect, a little more unprofessionalism from the people, and you're going to expect the people there to be much less chill, much more chill and laid back usually, but also possibly more confrontational. And you'll expect, not as good a service as going to a white restaurant. Now go to a predominantly white restaurant. People are going to expect better service, better treatment, better customer service in general. Tell me I'm wrong. Anybody in the comments, please tell me I'm wrong. But that's the example. There's always going to be this bias and this favoritism. Always. So racism will never die. And if people look at the positive bias that we have and the positive prejudice that we have and not just the negative, that's fine. And yeah, I don't agree with the negative bigotry that we have. I don't agree with some of it. Well, I don't agree with any of it, but at the end of the day, I realize that it exists and I don't let it hold me down. And that's what I see is the biggest problem in the world right now, especially with the blacks, is that they look at everything and try to blame it on racism to use it as an excuse for their own shortcomings. So, with that being said, peace.